Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive. Our mission today, well, it's pretty straightforward. We're diving into this really interesting public chat,
Yeah.
happened between a top-tier rugby coach and some, let's say, confused fans.
Yeah, very vocal fans, too.
Right. And it's all about South Africa's, frankly, ridiculous depth of talent. I mean, we're talking about bench players who could walk onto almost any other international team.
It really is the definition of a luxury problem, isn't it? And this deep dive, it's not about pointing fingers or finding fault. It's more about getting that aha moment. Understanding the sheer complexity of selection when your reserves are that good. How do you even manage that? It's less about pure talent and more about specific roles.
Exactly. And the sources we've got today are fantastic for this. We have an article covering Rassie Erasmus's direct replies on X, the social media platform, plus all the fan discussion that just exploded afterwards. It's like a public peek behind the selection curtain, which you don't often get.
And it forces you and us to think critically. When everyone's incredibly talented, what actually makes the difference? What specific, maybe even unconventional roles are being prioritized over a guy who's just lighting up his club competition?
Fascinating stuff. Okay, before we properly jump in, just a quick reminder, make sure you hit that subscribe button for Rugby Obsession. That way, you won't miss any of our future deep dives into the nitty-gritty of the game. We really rely on your support. All right, let's get to the player at the heart of all this discussion, Evan Roos. He's the Stormers number 8, 25 years old, and honestly playing some credible rugby right now.
Yeah, and you can totally see why the fans are scratching their heads. If you look at his recent form in the URC, wow, he's been absolutely electric. One of the standout players, easily. Back-to-back Man of the Match awards, scoring tries 4, I think. While the Stormers were unbeaten, his club form is just it's undeniable.
He's on fire for his club. But then you look at his national status, and it's, well, confusing for a lot of people. Only 8 test caps so far. And his last run out was against Italy back in July. And the kicker, he's only on the standby list for the Springboks end-of-year tour. It's hard to picture a better example of a world-class outcast, if you like.
That term, standby list, really hits home, doesn't it? It's not just missing the starting 15 or even the matchday 23. He's outside the main traveling group altogether, sort of the emergency break glass option. That alone tells you everything about the insane level of competition Rassie's managing, especially in those loose forward spots.
The fans are definitely feeling it. The interest got so intense that one fan just went direct, Message Erasmus on X and asked, let me get the quote right, "What happened between you and Roos? You need to clear the air because this isn't a normal situation." You can really hear the frustration there, can't you?
Absolutely. And what's really noteworthy here is that Erasmus actually engaged. He didn't just ignore it. His response was pretty direct, very candid, and smart strategically. He shut down any talk about Roos not being good enough right away, called him a world-class player, said he will play many test matches for the Bucks, so boom. The conversation instantly shifts from, is he good enough, to, okay, so why isn't he playing now?
Exactly. Which leads right into the core issue, the competition. Erasmus was super clear. It's not about Roos lacking talent. It's about the incredibly high standard set by the guys already in the jerseys, specifically Jasper, Wiese, and Kwagga Smith.
Yeah, he put it plainly. The quote was, we just have to really good 8s in Jasper and Kwagga, and in my opinion, they are still delivering at a higher level than Evan. So that makes you think, right, what does higher level mean in the Springbok system? It's usually about relentless consistency, physical dominance, that kind of thing.
Seems like it, especially consistency in the contact zone. You look at Jasper Wiese, he's the benchmark for that primary number 8 role, known for that constant gain line punch. Always getting over the advantage line, making meters after contact, winning collisions. If Roos isn't quite matching that specific relentless carrying output, well, he doesn't displace Wiese. Simple as that, maybe.
Precisely. And that's why the transparency works so well here. It effectively tells Roos, look, we rate you massively, but this is the specific standard, the skill set you need to hit consistently to get in. And Rassie didn't stop there. He gave a long-term view, too. Said he sees Roos as a test match player and thinks he'll probably make it in 2027, looking towards the next World Cup.
That's quite a clear message, isn't it? A long-term plan. Keeps a potentially frustrated player focused, gives him a goal, and this kind of direct communication, instead of just silence, probably helps squash rumors and drama, which must be crucial when you're managing a squad this deep.
It's more than just transparency. It's managing expectations across a whole World Cup cycle. Rassie's basically saying, we have a plan for the next 4 years, you're a big part of it, but right now, the specific needs of this team outweigh your amazing club form.
And you have to say, that approach, openly explaining the why, really builds credibility,
Yeah.
especially coming from a coach who's, got the Springboks at #1 in the world and have 2 World Cups in his pocket. Okay, quick pause here. If you're finding this look into player management and strategy as interesting as we are, please do take a second to subscribe to Rugby Obsession. It genuinely helps us keep making these deep dives. We really do appreciate the support. Right, so even with Erasmus's track record and his surprisingly open reply, the conversation wasn't over. One fan in particular pushed back, specifically about Kwagga Smith being picked ahead of Roos.
Yes, and this is where it gets even more nuanced, moving from just player versus player to how they fit the system. This fan made a strong case, arguing Kwagga Smith hasn't excelled in the num.8 position specifically, and probably wouldn't start at 8 for other big teams. So the question was, why prioritize him over a specialist like Roos?
That's a pretty direct challenge to the coach's reasoning. And again, what stood out was how Rassie handled it. He didn't get defensive. He replied, obviously, we are not always right, and I hear and understand what you say. Thanks for the way you discuss these things. I appreciate it, Ras. Just gracefully accepting the criticism. Encourages real discussion, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Creates an environment where people feel they can disagree respectfully. But then if you dig into those fan comments that followed, like in our source material, the picture around Kwagga's value gets much clearer. And it explains why he gets picked, even if it seems unconventional.
It really did. The fans provided some key context, like about Roos. One comment pointed out he can deliver brilliant performances in fits and starts, which maybe isn't enough at test level, and crucially that his defense is mostly lacking. Now, knowing the Springboks, if you aren't bringing Wiese's consistent power, you absolutely have to be rock solid defensively, right?
That defensive point is huge. Test rugby demands near-perfect defense. If there were any question marks about work rate, tackle technique, consistency, doesn't matter how good you are with ball in hand, you become a potential liability, especially come off the bench late in a tight game. So yeah, Roos probably needs to nail down that side of his game for priority selection.
Which brings us back to Kwagga Smith. He's not really competing head-to-head with Wiese or Roos to be the starting #8 in the traditional sense. He's filling this very specific, almost unique role within the Springbok system, a role that Roos currently just doesn't replicate.
Exactly. Kwagga is seen as the ultimate impact player off the bench, but it's his versatility that's key. He covers the #6 spot, the open side flanker, think breakdown speed, tackling, and he covers #8, even if it's not his primary position. His impact is massive in those final 20-30 minutes because he gives Rassie tactical flexibility. He enables those high-risk, high-reward moves.
Like the famous 7-1 bench split.
Yeah.
When they decide to stack the bench with forwards, those reserves have to be versatile, especially the loose forwards. Kwagga's ability to bring pace, defensive energy, and cover both flanker and #8 makes him invaluable to that specific strategy, arguably more valuable than just having another pure #8 replacement.
Spot on. If you bring Roos on, it's likely a direct swap for Wiese power for power. But bring Kwagga on, suddenly you have options. He can replace Wiese, sure, or he can spell Sia Kolisi at 6, or just add chaos and speed when the opposition is tiring. He maximizes what you get from a single bench spot. That's gold in test rugby.
It really highlights the difference between being, the best player in a vacuum versus being the right tactical fit. It's kind of wild to think Roos would probably be a guaranteed starter in almost any other era or any other team. The depth is just historic. And as if that wasn't enough, the fan chat also reminded us that the pipeline keeps producing. Someone mentioned the competition getting even tougher once Cameron Hanekom is fully fit and firing, another young gun pushing for a spot.
Yeah, the source material really paints a picture of a brutal selection process. It's not really a criticism of Evan Roos that he's having to wait. It just shows he needs to refine his game to either perfectly match Wiese's relentless physicality or develop Kwagga's unique tactical flexibility. Just being world-class isn't quite enough when the books have this kind of depth. So let's try and wrap this up. The key takeaway from digging into this whole exchange seems to be, well, it's actually a positive story, isn't it? It shows high-level, passionate debate happening out in the open. And it confirms South Africa has this unbelievable depth, creating this luxury problem where even brilliant players like Roos have to bide their time and hone very specific skills to fit into a winning system.
Definitely. And it leaves us, and you listening, with a really interesting thought to chew on, doesn't it? Considering everything we've discussed, Kwagga's unique bench role, especially for the 7-1 split, and Roos needing to maybe tighten up his defense, where do you think Roos's best path into the team lies? Should he double down, try to become the perfect like-for-like backup for Wiese at #8? Or, as one fan suggested, should he maybe shift focus, try to develop into that dynamic impact node 6 replacement for someone like Siak Khaleesi? Well, what's the smarter play for him?
That's a great question. We'd genuinely love to hear your thoughts on Rassie's choices and where you think Evan Roos should focus his efforts. Let us know. Jump into the conversation. And please remember to subscribe to Rugby Obsession wherever you get your deep dives. It really helps us out. Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and we will look forward to you listening to our next episode.